Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hobby Mules, a podcast where two dudes delve into the dungeon of tabletop games.
And where the hosts are as based as their minis. Hello, Josh.
Hello, Sam. Today, we're here to talk about tactile gaming.
And we're going to make a good case for it.
What it is, and specifically, why you should do it. So, Sam, what is tactile gaming?
Tactile gaming? Well, tactile gaming is when you game, whether that's a war game, a board game, a TTRPG, whatever it is, where you have things you can touch, move around, throw, eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheese dice sort of thing.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
Huh.
This is a topic for another time.
Okay, then.
But physical components that amplify the experience, not just for you, but for everyone.
Aye.
And specifically, we'll break this down game by game, or genre by genre, starting with RPGs. Physical notes are cool.
Josh, you wouldn't pull out your iPad and begin writing on it with your Apple Pen?
No, I would not. No, pen and paper notes really show if your players are engaged in an RPG, or if you as a player are engaged with what you're interacting with.
Right. It's if you feel the necessity to actually take notes and write it down, compared to when you don't do that. And when you don't do that is when you're sitting in front of a computer screen.
With your eyes glazed over.
And also you're on your phone while other people are doing their thing.
Cheeto dust crusting one hand.
That's sad. That's a lot of gamers.
It is sad. It is sad. Go out in the sunlight and play some tactile RPGs, guys.
Oh, yeah. But it does maintain player engagement, too. Like, thinking on this now that I'm on it, for me, at the end of every game session, I'll have to show you, we have a logbook. I stole, session report logs from, I think it was Labyrinth Lord, and we just use them. And I'm like, yeah, you can have 200 XP if you fill these out. So I literally have a book that we started on, session 8. And recently we hit session 50. 51 was our...
Wow.
I know.
Well done.
But every single session from 8 on, they made a report. And it's so cool to flip through.
That's cool. And you also kind of... The upside of that is you're getting the report from their perspective.
Right.
Which can be totally different from your perspective as the DM. And then you can adjust or recalibrate depending on...
Yeah, I find myself going back to double check what happened from their perspective. Because I certainly remember it, but I do not remember it the way they do. And I'll...
Right, it's hard to read, 4 different players when you're also trying to run the game. They could be interpreting things completely differently.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like we got a little rabbit hole on this.
Yeah.
But notes are cool. Physical notes, obviously superior to digital notes.
Yep.
Battle maps for RPGs. And I'll also say dungeon tiles as well.
Dungeon tiles, yep. That's what I use a lot of. Battle maps are freaking awesome, too, though. Even if they're a dry erase map. Just drawing it out. There's something nice about that.
Yeah, just the visualization. I've done all Theater of the Mind D&D before, and not the same at all.
That's also a little difficult. Because, with maps and dungeon tiles, your mind fills in so much more of the details for you.
Yeah, it kind of forces you to be creative. Where Theater of the Mind, I guess, does the same, but it's easy to miss details.
Right. In Theater of the Mind, though, you have to manage, everything as a GM. And I would say that's just a lot of extra unnecessary work. Well, maybe not unnecessary. It's more work to your already big GM palette.
Yeah, especially, so battle maps are cool, especially when they're printed. Mm-hmm. If you're in the forest, go on a forest-themed mat or tiles. If you're doing a dungeon crawl, I know you are a big proponent of physical, handmade dungeon tiles.
Uh-huh. Your players will think they're amazing.
Because they're cool. They're dope as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you have a amusing anecdote.
An amusing anecdote?
Amusing. Anecdote.
What? About what?
Aiden's story.
Aiden's story, but that's on the maps.
We're under maps.
Are we?
We're just talking about battle maps.
Oh, I'm retarded.
Sam. I'm leaving this in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I do. Okay. So, with dungeon tiles, or even dry erase maps, there's so much space on the table, so you gotta erase or remove dungeon tiles, right?
Yeah, you're limited.
Mm-hmm.
You can really only show the encounter you're in.
Right. So, for tacticalness sake, also because it's really convenient, because, I have my players make maps. I give them a little XP if they do it too. But one of my players, bless his little heart, I'll call him Aiden.
Smaden.
Schmaden.
He's a sweetheart.
Schmoft. We should refer to our players as Schmoft. Okay.
Special guest Schmoft.
Schmoft. From now on, you didn't hear his name. It was Schmoft. So Schmoft was making the map.
I'll take Schmoft and superimpose it over us saying his name.
Every time we say Schmoft.
No, every time we said Aiden. But I'll change it to say Schmoft.
You'll add it in my voice really quickly. Schmoft.
Schmoft.
Yeah, Schmoft was making his map. And there was this not large area, but not insignificant area in between a lot of the rooms. And he was like, no, I think there's something there. And the other players was like, no, there's nothing there. It's just going to waste time. He's like, let me see. It was like 10 minutes of him trying to be like, just let me check the rooms. And he checked a room and he found a secret passage. And he's like, I'm right. He freaked out. He loved it.
Yeah, and he only was able to discover that information because as he was making the map, he noticed that there was an empty space where a room should be.
Right.
So that's super cool. He was fully engaged, and him finding that secret tunnel was that much cooler to him.
100%. He still hasn't forgotten it. Now, would you be doing that on like a roll 20? I don't even want to call them battle maps. Screen?
No, come on. Everybody listening, if you've played digitally, which we have too, all right, you're not drawing a pen and paper map while you play. You're probably zoning off, a little bit of drool slipping down your chin. All right, you're not map making.
Well, you're not carefully planning out your turn, Josh. That's what I do when I played online.
No, I'm licking the Cheeto dust off my fingers.
What's your beverage of choice when playing online?
Before I click roll. That's really exciting.
Clicking roll. Doesn't it feel great to just roll a bunch of digital dice and they make a like off little sound?
No, it does not. But do you know what does feel nice?
What?
Rolling real dice. Real polyhedral, plastic, resin, dealer's choice dice. They feel good.
People hoard them for a reason.
Exactly. Every time I go to my game store, I come home with new dice.
It's a syndrome of the hobby.
They're just fun to roll. You get a couple dice in your hand and you just, see what happens.
100%.
Feel that weight on your palm.
You shake them even though that doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, not particularly.
No, but it's fun to do, especially if you have multiple dice and they clank around in your hand.
Oh yeah, and for key rolls in particular.
Oh yeah, and everyone like leans over to look at the dice.
Yeah.
Or it like gets stuck in something and they're like, reroll.
Yeah,
or like goes on the ground.
How many amazing moments. You could have these digitally, sure. You click the button, the 20 pops up on screen. Everybody screams.
Yeah.
How much more fun is it though? I'm winding up.
I'm leaning in.
Everybody's leaning in. The DM is on bated breath. The dice rolls. Takes a long time. Rolls to a stop. It's a 20. Everybody freaks out. Those are the moments that you remember.
Yes. Or when they fall on the ground and everyone's scrambling to look to see where it goes. They're like, oh, it's a 14. Can we keep that? Or it's like, oh, it's a 2. It fell off. Does that count?
No,
it doesn't.
Not in the tray. Not in the tray.
Dice towers, too, are really cool.
Are they, though?
They're really impractical, and they kind of suck, but it's really fun to watch them go down.
Okay. I've never used one. But,
oh, really?
I don't know. I prefer my big, meaty hands.
I've come to prefer them, too. But for fun rolls or big rolls, sometimes I'll pull out, like, the 3D printed one. One of my... That Schmoft gave me. A different Schmoft, too.
Special guest Schmoft.
Well, maybe it was Brittany this time.
No.
Oh, boy, our little characters. But yeah, no, for some big rolls, it's cool to have. Well, Josh, though, there are other things to touch and to throw and to roll. How about miniatures for a starter?
Minis are cool.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
No, we're done with that point.
We both unapologetically love minis. Physical, painted plastic. Or pewter. We don't judge.
Or lead if you're really old.
Or lead. If you like brain damage.
I think we all have that in one way or another.
Well, we are doing a podcast.
Yeah. All that paint we do gets to our brains.
Minis are cool. All right, they're fun to move around on the pre-described battle mat.
Mm-hmm. Or dungeon tiles.
It's something we were just talking about. There's a sound that minis make when you put them on dungeon tiles or a terrain board. Just a little click. It's a good sound.
It's a very good sound. It's very satisfying.
It is. It makes you want to do it more.
Mm-hmm. And seeing minis move around on the table, like you're touching them, picking them up, putting them somewhere else, or like the strategy behind it all, you know?
Absolutely. Your tactical thinking, I think, goes way up. Because think, if you're looking on a screen, you can imagine as a 3D space, but you're looking top down at a 2D space. You are a flat little bubble with a picture. The big bad evil guy is a bigger flat bubble with a picture. And now, transition to tabletop.
It's dynamic. The shadows are real shadows because the miniature's 3D.
Lighting can actually really set the tone.
Mm-hmm.
When we played Mothership, something I did to freak out my players is I killed all the lights and we just had this crappy little lantern. But when I broke out the monster mini, they were seeing it dimly lit the same way that their characters would see it. And it created a cool, dramatic encounter.
It's so cool. Which, on that note, too, busting out a new miniature that they haven't seen before, like the players. Mm-hmm. And then, I've had this basically every time, whether it's a new character mini or a new monster, where they go, oh, wait, can I pick that up and look at it? And you're like, yes, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Get your
grubby Cheeto hands all over my freshly painted Schmoft.
Schmoft. At 5,000 subscribers, we'll release a Schmoft FTL.
Schmoft plushie.
That'd be awesome. When you squeeze him, what would he say?
Oh no, bro.
You should have throw up action, real life throw up action. He just pukes on you when he does that.
One-time use.
Anyway,
minis also, they impose imagination onto them.
Yes, they really do. I know I was telling you before the podcast this exact same thing, Josh, but when there's a helmet on a mini, the players imagine the face. But if there's a face on the mini and it has a mustache or a beard, I find that players are going oh yeah, no, my guy's a mustache or a beard.
Yeah. They kind of superimpose their imagination around the mini. It kind of gives them a space to work in instead of being super open-ended.
A jumping off point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the mini has a mace? I guess I'll give my guy a mace to start with. Why not?
Yeah, why not? It's cool. WYSIWYG.
Mm-hmm. And going on with miniatures, too, there's this thing called miniature wargaming that's literally based all around miniatures.
Indeed. Think tabletop RPG, but more. More of everything. More minis, more terrain.
More dice.
Woo-hoo-hoo. And you could, theoretically, print paper standees.
But that's boring.
3D
minis are so cool.
They're very cool. There's a lot of stuff you can do with 3D minis that you can't do with your little paper standee.
No.
Magnetization.
So that's a thing, too. You go from D&D minis to wargaming minis. And magnetization, I don't know if they do this a lot for D&D minis. I certainly never have, but magnetizing arms, heads, weapons, whatever. Josh, your orcs?
Yes. So round one with the orcs, my orc Def Dread, I put the magnets in the wrong way so the arms would repel each other off.
In true orky fashion.
Yes, but I fixed that. But no, it is really cool, especially for me to have the exact loadout that I want, and it shows on the model. And to my opponent, they always think it's dope as hell. They want to pick it up and move the little arms around, and then him and I, both revert to small children playing with my
oh no,
moving the arms up and down.
Same with what are the death copters?
Oh yeah,
the spinny blades.
Yeah, well they kept snapping off, so I said screw it. Sorry, I said fuck it. I'm just gonna magnetize them so that they actually spin, and when I'm transporting them, I can just pop them off.
Easier storage. So yeah, I don't know if you guys know what they are, but they're orc helicopters.
It looks like one of those like a G.I. Joe toy that they cram the helicopter into a tiny box, so it's this muscly dude, in this tiny little helicopter.
And meanwhile, the helicopter itself, the blades are literal blades that chop.
Yeah.
It's just covered in guns.
It's better at ramming people with the helicopter than shooting.
In true Orky fashion.
In true Orky fashion.
Oh, dear.
And I know it can be intimidating, especially for a new player, to look at a war game and think, yeesh, I've got to paint 100 models. But how do you get over that fear factor?
You paint models. I know that's not very helpful. If you're lucky, you only start off with a box or two. But let's be honest, anyone hopping in is most likely going to buy like a combat patrol or a big box of minis.
Well, yeah, usually you're super excited, so you buy a ton.
Right, and then you realize, oh, I gotta build all these, or oh, here's what you do. You pick out, for your first armies, right, a simple color scheme. Something that you can easily manage, right? Because the more colors you have, the longer it's going to take, the more you're going to have to correct.
Even a simple scheme, like my custodies are simple. There's like 22 different paints I use per model. So obviously, pick something that's you're not going to kill yourself over it. And it's not that intimidating. You just do it in small batches.
Right. So I don't know if anyone, unless they're like doing a big, like, I'm all week just painting up this entire army. And by the end, they're like, they're insane from the beginning, but by the end, most people, like, painting my Death Guard, Plague Marines. I paint maybe 4, or if I'm feeling really ballsy, 6 at a time. And if it's a big model, I paint 1 at a time. And in between, like, the hordes of Poxwalkers and Plague Marines or whatever else, I do, like, 1 character model, and I take a little bit more time with it.
Yeah, you gotta break it up. And this could be its own episode, honestly, like tackling your pile of shame.
We should do that.
Which would be a good one.
Jamie, note that down.
Write that down on your paper notes, Sam.
Paper notes. Maybe instead of the Jamie, we do one of our characters.
Schmuffed. Brittany, write that down.
Brittany, write that down. There we are.
Right.
We're building lore today.
Yeah, we are. We never should have created that God's abomination.
Every person who sees it just stares at it for a little bit, trying to.
What cracked me up was when we were in a call with Tom. Schmoffed. And he commented on it, and then 5 minutes later, he was still talking about it. I was like, are you still staring at that cursed image?
And he was like, yeah, I clicked off, but I clicked back on.
Anywho, where were we?
Yeah.
Another thing, you don't have to be good at painting minis. You really don't.
And that's...
The average viewing distance of your miniature is probably about 5 feet? 4 or 5 feet?
Give or take. They're going to look good from wherever the heck you're standing. Sorry, wherever the hell you're standing.
Thank you. Anytime we censor ourselves, we should bleep that.
That'd be awesome. Actually, let's do that. But no, you're going to be viewing from a distance. They're going to look good. Just don't worry about it. Even if you have like mold lines and stuff, if you're starting out and you want to play, you want to get in paint, you're not.
And you get better.
Oh, and that's
quickly. Yeah, it's not. Painting should not be part of the barrier of entry, right. Nearly as much as like price or some of that more substantial stuff, time. But painting, not hard. Anybody can do it.
Watch a few YouTube videos,
and anybody should do it.
That's right. Get yourself cheap brushes, cheap paint.
Frog of Wargaming has some pretty cool tutorials. He's a cool guy.
He is really cool. And speaking of that,
but he's not as popular as Sideshow Sam.
Well, Sideshow Sam has a video how to start any hobby. We should plug ourselves more.
We should. It's in our photo. If anybody reads that part of it.
That is a good
point. Terrain, specifically for wargaming, terrain is huge. It brings your battlefield to life.
Oh yeah, and I'm okay at it, but Josh, you're the master.
I don't know if I'd say master. Settle down, boy.
We grant you the rank of master. Take a seat.
It's not fair. No, terrain is cool. It's super fun to make. You can make it out of literal garbage.
And that's the best thing to do, because all of a sudden you're this weird guy where you're like, ooh, is that wire mesh? Are those old wires I see? Oh, is that a soda can? Do you mind if I have this? Oh, and that box of tinfoil when you're done with it, the little cutty part, the sharp stuff. I need that too, along with the tinfoil.
What do you use that for? I wouldn't want to put anything that sharp on my models. I cut my hand on it.
It'd be dull by the time you're done, right?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sure you could use something cool for it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know. Trust me. I'm a pack rat. If I bring home one more piece of foam, I think Schmoft is gonna divorce me.
This is our best bit yet.
But yeah, in wargaming in particular, terrain's a huge part of it. Something that you cannot get in a digital space. I know people play 40K in Tabletop Simulator.
I can't imagine. I know you've told me this before, but
I can't imagine a more miserable way to spend 5 hours than digitally knocking over my models playing 40K. A game that's already too long.
Yeah, I already feel my brain melting by the end of 2,000 point games.
By the end of turn 2 of a 2,000 point game.
But
most of the steam is gone.
Oh, yeah. Tabletop Simulator, man. Jeepers, I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, physical terrain, super cool. It's something very fun about, you nestle your models up in the cover, and then you can drop down, you pop a squat, make sure that nobody can see them.
Or make sure they're just peeking out enough for you to be able to shoot.
Yeah, put them up in a window or something. It's all very fun, very atmospheric. It pulls you in.
And unlike with miniatures too, there's a lot of good pre-built options for terrain. So if you're not really into making it, or you just don't have space to hoard a bunch of junk.
Yeah, and they're cheap. Some of them are cheap too. Like we were just talking about Battle Systems, which is this great double-sided printed plastic card terrain.
And it looks really cool. Looking at it from here, the stuff in our Hobby Hell.
Hobby Hell.
That's right. It looks very good. So much detail too, because it's printed.
Yeah, you don't have to paint it. You just build it in no glue.
And if you really need to store it for a long time, you could literally just disassemble it and it lays flat.
Yeah, you absolutely could. If you didn't mind having a little bit longer setup time.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got dice, miniatures, terrain.
Do we talk about dice for this?
Oh, well, not yet, but we will.
Okay.
It's going to be a quick... Okay, let's do it now. Dice. Yeah. You roll a lot of them.
Literally, wargaming is just TTRPG on a big, big boy scale.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, if D&D is a wargame where you are controlling one unit...
A wargame is a wargame where you control an entire war.
Yeah, you control an army. If you're playing orcs, you could have 200 plus models on the table.
Or if you're playing Custodes, you could have 5 and kill every single one of those orcs.
In my dreams. But if each orc, you have 20 orcs. Each orc boy gets 4 attacks on the wah.
So that's how many attacks? That's 4 times 20.
That's 80.
Wait, I have a calculator watch. I can check.
No, wait. It's great. 80 attacks. Yeah, there's nothing more magical than grabbing your brick of 36 dice, asking your opponent if you could borrow 4, rolling them all twice, just to see if you hit.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a magical feeling. I'm lucky to be blessed with big hands for holding all these dice.
Amen. The Lord has blessed us with anything. It's big hands for painting, holding models.
Built for wargaming.
Wargaming.
And then obviously, compare that to digitally, you would hit add 40d6 or 80d6.
And then you gotta fumble around with it, because sometimes they have multipliers and addition things.
Yeah.
How miserable is that? I can't imagine that.
If you play Warhammer Online, just stop. Get some help and make some friends.
Listen, and that's the thing too.
I'll play with you.
There are so many people around you. I think I said this somewhere else too. There's so many people in your area who want to play.
Or would be open to learning.
Yes, because it's in the cultural zeitgeist now, the nerdy stuff. People vaguely know of Warhammer.
Yeah,
a lot of people know of D&D.
I think of Baldur's Gate was the number 1 game of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a D&D movie. Nerd stuff is out there, and people are generally pretty receptive to it.
And guess what? It's infecting them with the hobby, because some of those people, I'd say most of them, once they get a little taste of it, they go, oh, what have I been missing?
Well, yeah, they think it's super fun. It's this is a whole new type of enjoyment, a group enjoyment that I've never experienced, that I didn't even know existed. and it's really fun.
And it's incredible, like, the friends you can make out of this, too. Like, it's bonding together in person, that weird, I don't know, monkey part of our brain or whatever, but face to face. We can see each other. We can touch each other. It's very special.
Yes, the touching is very special.
Oh boy, you should hear Schmoft at our D&D games.
Board games. They're a little bit different than RPGs and war games.
Yeah, generally, they're either really miniature heavy, they have none, or they're in this weird space where they have, like, 4 models, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, and they're self-contained, and every included bit is there to amplify its own atmosphere. At least it should be.
Right. Well, I know the 2 I can speak to, at least. Looking at the Hobby Hell, what do you call it? Rack? Shelf? The Hell Rack?
Sure.
I don't know. It's really cool to look at, though. There's so many games on it with models, but the 2 I can speak to are Nemesis and the Deep Rock Galactic board game.
Fine choices, Sam. Fine choices.
The Nemesis models for both the... Are they called the Nemesises? The Nemesi?
I think it'd be Nemesi.
The Nemesi. The Nemesi, but your character models, too. They're very cool.
Excellent. And it's a horror game, so you want that immersion.
And they set a great tone along with the board for that.
Oh, absolutely. Like when when you're exploring a hallway and your little human model accidentally stumbles into the nest and the queen is there, it's like a 5-inch tall mini. You feel
small.
You feel very small, as you should.
And is it the hunter who has the really cool, like, auto turret on him, all the capes and the gun?
Ah, that's the Sentry.
Is that his name, the Sentry?
Yeah.
He's the only one I feel safe as playing because his model's really cool. All the rest of them, they're just like these humans with puny little weapons with a janitor where you're like, oh no!
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, the tactile components, super important in board games.
Deep Rock.
People play them online, obviously. You're going to have a better time in person.
Yeah. Atmosphere.
Yeah.
Touching.
Yeah. You and touching, Sam.
It's true. It's the tactile. This is all about tactile.
Yeah, this is true.
Being able to touch the things I'm doing stuff with. I'm not making a better case for myself. Anyway, moving on.
Play war games with Sam. Just don't bring your children.
Hey, you're starting to sound like Schmoft.
Closing thoughts on tactile gaming.
When painting models, you don't have to be good.
Go ahead.
You go.
I was going to say, it can be expensive. It doesn't have to be that expensive.
That's right. Watch YouTube tutorials. It's super easy to paint, and they give you confidence.
Well, yeah, and even those can feel a little overwhelming because there's so many, and some channels in particular that advertise themselves to new people.
They're rat-like.
They're rats because they're not for new people.
They don't show any of their mistakes.
Well, not even just that. Like somebody like Squidmar Miniatures. He's like
fuck that guy.
Fuck you, Squidmar.
I really don't like him.
Oh well, I mean his videos are very entertaining. Okay,
I will admit he's a fantastic,
amazing painter. I watched some of his videos getting into this. His tip videos for new painters, horrible advice for a new painter.
I think this is just a thing with all people. Once you get to a point in something where you're really good, you kind of lose touch with what beginners need to know. So all your tips are for like intermediate to advanced only. And you're like, yeah, it's for beginners.
I remember one of the first tips he had, not to shit on Smoftmar Minis too much.
Smoftmar Minis. We'll call him Schmoftmar.
But he says don't use washes, which is a totally valid thing for
big boy
high-end painters. You paint in your shadows and your highlights. You don't use washes because they can be sloppy and create shadows where they shouldn't be, and you get the point.
Mm-hmm.
Washes for a new painter are amazing. When you paint that first model up and you think it looks like shit, and then you put that Agriax Earth shade on it, your jaw drops. You're fucking Da Vinci.
The guy I started with, the YouTuber that got me into painting minis, Jim Murphy, I really like him. I talk about him as much as I can. He literally was like, no, this stuff, and he's like referring to shades, he's like, this is talent in a bottle. You want to use this. Your miniatures, you could be okay at painting. But if you use this, you're a master.
Exactly.
And he was just this great old guy, and he loved it.
And what's great, too, is, like, especially if, like, you're just getting into the hobby with other new people, like, they'll look at your first painted model.
And they'll go, holy shit.
Like, whoa, that's so cool. You can bask in the adoration and glory, and then you'll look back at the model, like, 2 years later and be like, yeah, it's kind of shit, though.
Well, same thing with speed paints and new people, though.
Yeah, because that's... watch our speed paint video. We can't
get enough of that stuff.
Can't get enough of it.
I drink it. Try physical components out. Especially if you've only used digital, or if you've been thinking about it and you haven't taken that leap yet.
Go wash your hands. Go outside. Go to your local game store. If Geneva has one, your town probably does too.
You know,
if Newberry has one, then you probably do too. All right? And try it out.
100%. You know, Nurgle won't like the washing your hands and going outside part, but you know who will?
Everyone else.
Everyone else. Especially you. Well, as you know, Josh, we have a little thing here called the Hobby Corner.
Dun, dun, dun.
Where we talk about the various things we're working on.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
Oh, dear.
Hobby Corner. Sam, what have you been working on this past week?
What have I been working on this past week?
What have you been working on this past week?
Well, I know I've mentioned it in the past, so I'll give an update to this. I got those models for Alpartha Legacy done and shipped off.
Yes.
And the guy, I really like him a lot, Schmoft. He's like, hey, do you want to paint more? And, you know, when I got all these models done, I'm like, I'm going to take a break. I'm done. I'm not going to do it again for a long time. But then I got a bunch of models painted because, you know, they're all mine. And I'm like, yeah, sure, give me more. So now I have 41 goblins and 6 wargs to paint for him.
Yes. And these are all models you'll paint and send back again?
Yep, and then he'll send me unpainted models as rewards. So all of those models, I'll get 41 goblins and 6 wargs as a reward.
Really?
So all the models...
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, so all the models I painted for him before, the 6 Egyptian chariots and like this, was it like 12 Chaos Spearmen? Mm-hmm. I got all those models.
Really? That's cool.
So I don't get the ones I painted to him, but he sent them to me.
But now you know how to paint them.
But now I know how to paint them and the tricks to paint them faster. But yeah, so I'm waiting for a new cheap airbrush to come in just so I can brute force all the goblins by just... Thankfully, half of them just have loincloths on, so just spray painting the green on will be easy.
Skin and loincloth.
Beautiful. But, hey, yeah, so I've just been cleaning them.
My friend Limbos here says you took his gold coins.
What's the sound? He makes like sounds.
Nobody messes with the goblin gang.
But Josh, what have you been up to?
For me, it's full swing Custodes mode. Orcs are back on the shelf for a little bit. Because I'm in an escalation league. And we're jumping up 500 points this week.
How do you do in your last game?
It was real close. So Custodes, to those of you who do not know, they're the Emperor of Man's elite bodyguards. The best of the best. One of the most elite armies in the game. Other than literal, like, 40-foot tall giant killer robots, these guys are the most elite. So you get very few of them. So it was 40-some orcs versus 8 Custodes. And they killed everything except for 2 grots. 2 little goblins.
2 grots?
That were sitting on his back point. And the only way that I would win on points, because Custodes are really good at killing things, but they're not good at completing objectives to get you points, I had to charge them or shoot them to death. And I failed all those rolls. When I'm hitting on 2s on a 6-sided dice, I'm wounding on 2s on a 6-sided dice. I had command points so I could re-roll failures. Missed everything. So
that's absurd.
The goblins on the back point survived, winning him the game.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really good game.
That is awesome.
Very fun. My opponent also made 27 out of 29 4-up invulnerable saves.
Holy shit. Gork and Mork
on his Mega Boss. His Mega Boss survived. He died on the 5th round of combat, so like 2.5 turns of melee with my Terminators and Shield Captain. by himself.
This is impossible. They're still breaking through.
Yeah. No, we weren't breaking through. It was ridiculous.
That is absurd.
It was a crazy game. It was wild.
That sounds like it, dang.
And it came right down to the wire. Like, literally the last dice roll of the game. If I'd have killed the Grats, I could have taken that objective, gotten the points. Didn't happen.
That's the magic of playing 40K.
It
or
is.
any war game. That's so
It is,
cool.
absolutely. It was super duper fun. But that was my last 500 point game, so we're stepping up to 1,000 points, which means I need to paint some Custodes.
Which I'm going to help him with that, actually, after we're done recording
Yes.
this.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. And other than that, I finished up some terrain boards that I was commissioned to make for our local game store.
They're gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
They're really good. Like I said earlier, Josh is the master of terrain. It's genuinely impressive.
Maybe in this town.
Maybe we can flash pictures of them up on screen, because they are, they're really cool.
Oh, you're a sweetheart, Sam.
It's true, though. I would say they sucked if they sucked. They genuinely were really
Thank
good.
You. Thank you. If you want to play on them, the Game Goblin in Geneva is the place to be.
Green Goblin is the place to be.
Green Goblin.
Yeah, go in there. Ask about us, maybe. I don't know.
Or don't.
Yeah, probably don't, actually. Yeah, these two guys from YouTube sent me here. They said,
They said they'd play 40K with me.
Yeah, they said I'd play 40K with them, so if you could just give me their phone numbers or something, or their house numbers, that'd be really nice.
Oh boy, this has been a rambly-ass episode.
I mean, that's a good thing, though. Right?
Yeah. But I think it's high time we skedaddle. So, Sam,
Josh,
it's been good fun.
Indeed it has.
And to our humble audience,
this has been Hobby Mules. Tune in next time where we do this all over again, but about something else.
but better.
Yes.
See you next time.
All right, see you.
Bye-bye.